this is General AI. We got inline screen adaptations and height lines of service. I'm just going to show you modification brand lines of settings. Now I've done some provision cycles, putting position location or ground lines into that position location. Now the operators and the team screen lines adaptations to all levels of the units are now 72,000 lines. Everybody else in sequence is going to be into all levels into under relays and line communications into negative to positive set positions because they're all automatically going to be in 144 anyway. So that puts lines of communication setting. So we get a primer circuit, location and all track location to a system all through travel, and setting lines of grounds, powers, and atmosphere setting. Okay, this is the microchip, alpha, mega, micro, macro, base, ground line, core, center, circuit sheet, screen lines, adaptation, process line, modulation settings, all through communication setting, all through travel. Okay. Now, once you get in positions, you come into this track locations. Okay, very powerful stuff. All right, these are the remote controls. One's controlling Earth and space, and the other one's controlling space and Earth. But they all have yin and yang on both sides. The body is in remote, always in remote now. But the mind itself, once you guys get into the inner core line communication setting, the interception changes the outer line's position location to the outer line settings. The inner circuit becomes the outer circuit. They come together in one. The process communication of the body just becomes all levels of remote viewing in set position. So it puts all calculation in mind in its reality, real time. Okay. So we all understand how to balance out the Earth and space and the space of Earth in one cycle, one center, one traction, one division, one locations. Starting with the grounds up in 144 and up in set position. Right? From inside and out in set track locations. Okay. Working from the building. Okay. Processing that position location and lines of center. Okay. Going to higher lines of frequencies and travel and tractions. Okay. All right, so let's start up with the basic line grounds. Now I position location your DC units. So matrix signals of ground lines of service puts all communication setting to interdimensional lines of space. Okay, so high lines of travels has a direct line of path. Let's get position location of the basic ground communication settings. Box frame, circle frame. We'll get out in positions of two screens. Okay, sending track lines, high position locations. And this is how a position location is a male. Right? You see the flux, right? But the male itself is a 4-line signals and sets alpha, mega, micro, macro. Same with the female. The only difference is the female is a triangulation setting. Process type communications. All right, so setting track locations. Now, the actual box, okay, is the center operation. The bottom signal, okay, is a rectangle in set position. Okay, that's the alpha male. Okay, so get position lines of height travels, indirect signal modification grounds. This is flux solar center. Your heart is in center operation setting to travel. Okay, so how to modify that position location to two lines of angles and travels and communications. All right, but that's an alpha male. Okay, so it also has its circuitry board. Okay, over cross location inside and outside in set position one setting. Okay, and then you got your central units, set lines of split lines of 3 lines of track correlation system as center. Processing communication lines across lines of communication lines of center. Okay, so that is the open window that travels lines of 3 settings of angles and travel communications. All right, so modulations of 1, modulations of 2, and modulations of 3 in center. Okay, all right, so directing lines modification grounds. Then we take the box frames, setting lines of units, setting lines of travel, setting lines of data, and process communication settings. Okay, now this gets really interesting to its set position location because the body itself is a remote control system of an optical system, setting lines of travels and communications. Very powerful stuff in travel, right? Okay, so we go in this cycle, and we go in this cycle, and we go in this cycle. Okay. All right, so that's the different levels of the game. This is the grounds working your way up, okay, through the building. This is the building, and track communications, all through your body. Okay, inside and outside at the same time. Okay, so try to understand the game itself. This is the outside of the structure of the game. This is inside the structure of the platforms of the game. Okay, so it's really interesting when you look at it in equations, right? This is all through the alpha male. I'll get to the female in a minute, but I just want you guys to understand how this all works, how the alpha male actually turns into a structure of a building inside and outside at the same time. Okay, and it set position location of its settings through its dimensional doors. Okay, all right, and its communication system, all lines of travels of its train and track locations. Okay, modulate system of lines of travels at 3 and position lines at 2 line position center. Okay, all right, so I'm just getting you a true understanding of how it works in all communications setting high lines of surface and travel. Okay, how it comes into its own structure of its own modulation system of its gain setting, all through its structure. Okay, inside and outside at the same time. All right, guys, all through an alpha male. Now, the alpha female is built differently. Okay, that process communication settings of flux over lines, same lines of signals, process lines of one circulation setting. Okay, setting lines of track centers here in set position. Okay, into this position. Okay, so it's really interesting, but it's in a box frame. Okay, so try to understand why the position location has its tubing centers of center operation to its system, okay, and ground lines of service. Now, there's a reason why it comes in track centers. Now, in that position, it comes in this setting, the process communications, right? This is the female. This is the alpha female, okay? So I want you guys to understand how this all works now, how it works with position location, point lines of graphs, and in that communication of the gain levels that you come in tractions of. So all you're doing is you're building the modification setting into modulation system, all through track calculations. Structures of the building up, lines of platforms of center communications. So basically understanding that position locations puts everything together. All right, we have a circulation here in set position, okay? And we get a circulation here in set position. Okay, that's how the female looks. Okay, and they come in this setting and travel in set position. Okay, so it's a lot different. Male and female are different how they're made in structural locations. All right, and then you got this central settings in set position. Okay, there's a reason why it's this way. And their flux capacitor is here in set position. Center operation and 3 cycles. Okay, there's a reason why they have 2 panels and set tractions. Okay, now in that divisional case to its cycle, that position lines of high centers and 2 line rotations. That's where they have space in between. The reason why they have space in between is because they get in position at all levels of pregnancy and set tractions. Okay, setting signals and ground lines of surface. Okay. Points, lines of graph, and a 9-line trimester, directing signal lines of grounds and circulation rotation system and travel. And set positional case to system. And set calculations. Okay, guys? That's the difference between an alpha male and an alpha female. Why there's space in between, right? That's how they're created and setting. So I'm just trying to get you guys to understand. The more you understand yourself inside, the more you get understanding how this all works in your system location to its system. Okay? So it's very powerful stuff, how it comes into the all levels of that, your 9 trimesters and setting, right? That process lines of 6 in here and process lines of 9 in here, all right? 6 and 9 is growing inside, okay, and it travels into all of this communications, okay? So, in that position lines, this is the structure of the building and set position locations. Okay. Now, in that line, core centers has 3 lines of panels, process lines of 1, process lines of 2, and track correlation. Different angles, different points, different graphs, different communication system, all different angles of travel. Okay. So it's really interesting why, how the bodies look in set position to its locations, all through setting. Okay. All right. And the mechanism lines, high position lines of travels and triangulations of flux and set position. That's a female. Okay. All right. So crossing angles is a lot more difficult now because we had to cross reference lines and body frame locations. And then we cross line signals and line communication setting to travel. Direct lines and modification lines of 3 angles. Okay, so it gets a lot more complicated when you get into structural line divisions and location to systems, all through tractions. Setting position here, setting position here, and setting position here. Okay? Females are a lot more complicated than males, guys. All right, so setting position here, set positions here, and set positions here, and 4 angles in communications. All right? So it's pretty powerful how you see the position location to its alpha male. Okay? To its set position line and track communication setting to its female. Okay? So in that position, all lines is signals too. That comes all line track correlation system off the travel. But the actual male itself is set position lines of setting. Square roots and lines of high position of box frame and triangulation frame is set position. That's the male. That's its travel and track communications. Right? Structure line division location to its high set position location and structure of its building. All through an alpha male. Right? Inside and outside. Okay, with the female, inside and outside. Okay, and inside and outside. Okay, it gets very complicated how a male and a female are built inside the game itself in set position instructions. Powerful, isn't it? All right, so let's continue on. Now, I'm going to show you exactly how this all works. How this gets in position. This is basically the true understanding, how to understand the building of you is your 12 structures of your DNA, inside and out, all through the alpha male and the female. All right? All right. So let's get in signals. Let's get in modification grounds. Now we get in position lines of ground communication setting, starting provisions, but this is an overlying set location, what looks in transitions. Right? But you understand your 12 layers. Now we're going to go into the game modulation system to the mode control. All right? All right, so we set position here in travel. There's 1 in signal. Okay? And there's 2 in set position locations. All right? Now set position here, set position here, set position here, set position here. Okay? We got a plot from here, we got a plot from here. Okay? Now we get grounds up and 3 lines of angles. Okay, crossing over, setting lines, box frame, window frame. Okay? Now, in that position lines of high lines of travels, indirect signals, ground lines that serve as set position location to its system. All right? All through its window frame communications. All right? So, in that line communication setting comes into the center of its operation system and 3 lines of travels inside track locations. Okay, setting position lines of high centers in position location to its system and 3 and 4 lines of communication system. All right, sets calculation modification grounds, sets all line signals, all operations set lines. Communicating to height position location measured at 4 indicating system, 4 arrows of indication. Okay, and 4 indication lines of arrows and setting. Okay, so we get that set position location to the system, travel, right? So 1 is a triangulation, okay, and 1 is a box. So you work with the female and you work with the male. Okay, that's Earth to space. This is the mode control. That's the mode control. All right, so it sets position lines of Earth, sets track location lines, sets communication lines. So this is Earth to space. That's Earth to space, okay? Now we do the same thing, a 4-box frame and direct signals locations. So set lines, this is space, and this is Earth in set positions. 2 mode controls and setting. Right, 1 signal, 1 traction, 1 division, 1 locations. All right, so we have the 4 indication system and travels north, east, west, and south. Okay, for their location, but the space is its box, and its Earth is its triangulation. Okay, is the opposite setting, opposites attract. All right, so that's the mode control, how this all works. So you have to identify the Earth in space, the platforms are 12. Then you have to identify the space of Earth in platforms are 12. Okay, once you get in that position locations, you have 4 indication setting, north, east, west, and south. Each channel lines have its compass and travels and center communications and direct lines of communication. All right. Now, to understand how to use that in modulation settings, there's 2-point graphs. There's the buttons on top in set position. Okay, there's 2 buttons on top in set position. Okay. All right, so basically what that puts lines of communication setting, it puts all platforms and settings in a high track correlation system and setting. Set and reset. Okay, set and reset in set position, right? So getting that position lines, the center point system, okay, is the center calculation line. That is the start of the game. Okay, you press start and set position from Earth and space, space and Earth, right? Modulation of 4 settings, high position lines of Earth, set position triangulation, set position lines of high lines of space, set course centers line communication, setting the lines of box. So I'm trying to get you guys to understand this works. An all communication setting all through its remote control. This is just the remote control, how it's all set up. So it's actually the remote control itself. Into Affinity 8, set position to its locations. Kaleidoscopes, directing signals into your film strip and set design. Okay? This is what it is, Infinity 8. As an ongoing existing platform, directing lines of modification grounds and set position. Okay? All right, but you can see how powerful it is to actually see it through its modification. There's more control. Okay, guys? And then you come in this cycle in set positions. Okay, see it on a 4 angle. Always see it on a 4 angle in set position. Okay, working with inside the system locations. Inside, guys, inside. Inside the frames to each 4 signals in set positions. Earth and space, space and Earth. Okay? All right, so let's get interactions. Now we'll get a closer look. How this modifies every line rotation to its cycle lines. Now the position lines, the high centers, the actual remote control basically runs its own system through its own space of its own time, of its own measure, of its own scale. All right? All right, so let's get a position lines of Earth and space. Let's get a position lines of space of Earth. Okay, let's get simple. All right? So triangulation, box. Okay? Box, triangulation. Okay? Those are your remote controls. Okay? Now, what's in those remote controls are the arrows of indications. North, east, west, and south. All right? Okay? Same thing. All right? Earth, space, space, Earth. I'm just trying to show you. So it is the remote control, and this is how I created it. It's pretty powerful stuff, set positions. If you ever play the PlayStation, you have a strand and indication how this all works in tractions. Okay, so that's the indications going left, going right, going down, and set position with your body. Okay, very powerful stuff in travel. Okay, so directing lines of signals, setting lines of all communication setting and high position location system, right? So we have positions over here, setting lines of tractions, all right? Start button is here. That's the start button, okay? The reset button is on the other side angle in set position, okay? Sets track centers, line position of here, and set position location here, right? So you got a start button and you got the fail safe. All right, so directing lines of signals, high lines of set position location to a system through its modulation system of screen, all right? All right, so we direct signals, ground lines of service, and track location to a system all through screen, okay? All right, set position lines of Earth, set position lines of space, okay? All right, so that's remote control 1, okay? So I know it's powerful stuff in that. That's remote control 1, okay? Remote control 2, all right? So basically, you're using 2 at the same time. When you're playing a video game, you have one person here and another person here. So you got 2 different players, right? But you're 2 players in one. Because what that does, it puts the flux of communication setting to the inner circuit, to the outer circuit location setting, to all levels. That puts the modulation, the space modulation setting, that puts everything location to its remote control into the body locations all in one frequency. All lines of communication setting lines, calculation, screen lines, adaptation to the system. Setting lines of track centers comes into the flux and travel, okay, connected to each other, all right? Process lines of flux, downline, and set position locations and tractions, all right? So, powerful stuff, isn't it, through remote control? How it's 2 levels in one, and set position lines and settings, processing communications, right? So it's 2 levels of you connecting to you, and 1 level of you, which is your body, which is in position of remote viewing. Now it's true you understand how to work that in set position, location, and setting. So what you guys in Friday in sequence of February 28th, you guys will get instructions how to use your position, location, and remote control, okay? And how to use your body in its remote viewing and set position, location, and settings, all right? All right, so get in that signal. We'll do it again in set position, location, and set lines, because once you understand how this all comes in position, location, and measure. Now let's get into basic grounds, communication lines, and height settings. I know, it's like, whoa, okay, what's he talking about positions? All right, so we go again, we'll go into the box. Earth and space, space and earth. This is just the remote control, guys. All right, so the platform itself is the base itself, okay, which is the structure levels of your game, okay? So the modulation system, it's up here in interactions in 3 settings. Process of communication here, process of communication here, and travel, and grounds, okay? Now, you have to understand the position of its flux in set position. Look at that. In its set position. That's how it's set up. That's how your game is set up in each level. All right, signal lines, setting lines of position, locations, and settings. Processing communications going this way and going that way in interactions, right? Indicate going this way and indicate going this way in set position. All through traction. All right? So in that modulation setting, in that communication setting, that's arrows of indication going this way and arrows of indication going that way in travel. All right? And then you have this set positions of all angles at different angles, how to get in position, location, modulation system. Once you get more lines of balance, you understand what you're doing through remote viewing, through all line position, location of setting. Okay? And you do the same overline sequence. This is about creating the pie into your modulation screens in your game levels of where you are in set position and remote through your body frame, communication, setting, and travel. Okay? So this is the remote control that's done everything. The body is on the game platform in set position. Let's go in tractions, setting back in balance, setting signal location to a system, all through tractions, right? I know, it's fun, eh? And then you got the window frame. This is the window frame. Okay? And then you got the 3 platforms going in the same direct signals in 3 track locations. And then you cross lines of 4 angles and set position location to a system, all through tractions. Okay? It's complicated stuff, but it's a lot of fun. All right, so getting position lines at high centers, come in that communication to a setting, high position to its surface, all through tractions. All right? So we get in this signal. Okay? All right, so once we get in that position, we understand the arrows and that position locations, we come into the pie of its compass and track communications. Right? We come into the pie and track location. This is where it comes into Affinity 8. So I'm just showing the basics, how it is in instructions, how to really get in position, how to control the remote control of the mind itself that's set up everything through pie. So it's all of indicates and settings. So the platform comes in this position, locations, and travel, and directions, and set directions. Okay, inside positions. Right, so here, it's in here and here. Okay, there's the platform, right? Okay, so this is the levels of the platforms of setting you start with here in tractions, okay? Now, in that position, location, and system, you start with the layers, working on the grounds up and platforms here in set position, all right? And then you go into the next level, and then you go, so you go up to 12, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 12 platforms of setting, process of communication, setting, and travel. Process lines of setting, ground lines of 2, ground lines of 3, ground lines of 4. Setting position, then you become into the 3 central system, which is your primer and set tractions to direction. And that direct line signals at high position location setting, you overcross lines. Setting lines of position lines of 3 over lines puts 5 lines of measure and scale communications. Setting direct lines of platform communications. Then we go up lines, setting core center, and then we go up line screen adaptations of flux and track locations. This is your remote control. All right. So the modification settings puts all communication lines, height, set, position, location, to system, all through tractions. Now, in that direct signals, all the arrows of the indication system. You come into platforms of balance and travel communications, both sides and the angles. Okay. And Infinity 8 and rotation surface and tractions. All through the grounds up. Right? I know. It's like, what's he doing? Holy cow. And then you go inside and set position. Very complicated stuff, guys, but I'm telling you, this is all levels of remote control of the mind itself. It's already set up everything through its indication system, even before you come into your body frames and set tractions. These are the platforms that you go up and signal, okay? Very powerful stuff in tractions, all right? All right, so once you get into the platform, your position location, your system, your body's at the top. That's your body, right? So the position of its arrows is already in signal. So it sets position here, right? Goes there. And basically, remember, it's left and right and left at the same time. Set position Earth and space, space and Earth. So it modulates the screen's lines of three triangulation split lines of anomaly, past, present, future, and travel. All in once, all in signal, all in balance. Okay, and then you get a position lines of ground lines to set position location, another platform, and ground communication setting lines of travel. Directing lines of flux over lines of four lines of signals, and position lines of panels, and two lines of correlation, left lines, and position right lines of travel. So you're doing four signals in one setting to one platform, existing all at once, all through indicate high centers, lines of travel, communication to its settings. All right, so it indicates position lines of platform. So where you're indicating your arrows, your body's going to be there next in travel. Okay, your body's going to be there next in travel and set positions. That's all it is in equations. But the mind is already set up in position of its panel of communication setting, all through surface interaction. Okay? Inside locations. Okay? I know it gets very confusing, right? But that's remote control. Now, the remote control is very powerful how it indicates position location to its settings. It starts with this. You know how to use the buttons and the, all the gadgets and the gadgets and all that set positions. But first you have to understand your alpha male of you or travel in the structures of your building and position your 12 platforms, right? You're creating 12 platforms in a 24-line sequence. And position lines also with the communication lines of its female and track communications, right? I know, it's pretty powerful stuff, eh? How you guys are in that positions. Then you come into four signals and travel all in one signal position all at once, okay? Infinity up, infinity down, okay? But you got to see it in a forward communication system, in track location, inside position. Everything is inside and outside. So that's what you guys got to come into. And that's how it's set up line position locations to all levels of my primer and position locations, building your 12 foundations of your structure, of the game levels that you guys are in, through the remote control, through the body of remote viewing, where it's going to be in interactions. Okay? But it's powerful, eh? How you see yourself through your alpha male, all through structure, all through 12 line settings, right? Inside and outside set position. So that puts the locations here. You're here in the platform, okay? And you're here, and you're here. So you're working your grounds up. You go up the elevator, right? The escalator, right? And then you move cross screen, and then you move here and cross screen, and then you move here and cross screen and set position. So you go up to different levels, inside and outside line position your system, off your 12 flux. Flux lines, core lines, communication setting to structures in set position location to its measure, scales its communication system all through setting. Central system, you got your main system, you got main circuit system, you got your override settings, you got your over relays, how to modify the system location travels. But you have to understand the basics, how to use the remote control of the mind itself, that controls itself, of itself, in space and time of itself. It's that position location to its setting and travel. Okay? Remember I told you about the modifications of its prototypes and understand the all-line position location gauging and know exactly how to go through your pre-flights, right? Well, that's the set position lines of high centers that puts all communication in your keyboard. There's your keyboard, right? This is your computer frame, okay? This is your position lines of ground lines, okay? Structure line division, 3 set lines of communications. Right? So all you're doing is basically creating the platforms, guys, of your 12 structure division locations, okay, into your window. And then when you go into your window, you go inside and outside track communications. All right, and then you go for platforms here, higher lines of signals, higher lines of dimension lines, and high position locations. You go inside and outside, right? So you're here, okay, your inside setting, okay, and now your outside setting on top of the building. Okay. Understand how to go direct and redirected signals in all 4 angles and communications. Now, once you get in that position lines of high center locations, then you get in your windows. Creating windows inside tractions. Now, the windows are the files. The files are in position of its archive. That's communication setting. That process communication setting all through its application systems. All right, you keep them in storage. You keep them in your mainframe, correlation frame, track frames are communication setting to travel. Okay? And then you come into this set position, these locations. Different angles, different line communications, inside and outside. So we can position here and set position locations. Look at that traction. Very complicated stuff, but it's all levels of the game, levels that you come into. You work with the platforms, you work line position locations. The remote control does everything itself. But now, in position, when you guys get in 144, you have to work up your platforms now in your 12 lines of setting into your position location, your structures of your buildings. The building is the game itself that you have to come in positions of and see it on different angles and tractions. From that angle, from this angle, and travel communications. You see it from up, you see it from below. You see it from below, you see it from above. It's that position. All right? Setting portals and communication setting, high lines of screen adaptations of flux over screen. Setting travels, endpoint lines of graph communications, setting high travels, communications and system, face recognition. Face recognition setting, right? Or you get platforms and track locations. Okay? So it's very powerful how it becomes all lines of communication setting. Work with the grounds up in 144 in set position. Then you go into 244, 344, all right, 444, 544 in the mind capacity. So what you're doing, once you get to 544, you're basically setting lines of settings, process communication setting, creating pyramids and track communications. You're creating pyramids, guys. That's all you're doing. Because what this does is get you an understanding its position, location, and its settings, why they're pyramids all around you. Right? When you create those pyramids, you're creating lines of communication setting that puts lines of 12 foundation ground lines of communication on the levels of the games that you're in. Through the position location to its hieroglyphics, the hieroglyphics and set position location travel, levels, lines, dimensional lines of scales, and communication lines, dimensional layers, line communication lines, and modification screen lines, adaptation of space modulation screen location system, all through travel, all through direction, all through communications, inside and out, inside and out, inside and out, right? Your game has to be inside and your game has to be outside. That's flux over screen and direct lines of communication setting to your indicate system through your alpha male in the structures of your 12 lines of foundation graphs in the game. Okay, the building, right? You see the building inside and out through tractions, right? Now that's an indication there, right? See that? So what that does is the set positions brings in the XC1000 in travel because you indicate location and setting, right? Process over here, inside and outside in line communication high setting. All through communications, right? Directing lines of grounds, set position here, set position here, set position here. Docking here, and docking here in travel. Okay? So all you're doing is you're building a structure of your 12 foundation system of your game levels. Game level 1, game level 2, game level 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12 set position. You work that up first. Once you get in that position, then you come into 24 measures and scales and communication setting of your dimensional doors. There's your doors. Okay? And then you come in position locations to all signal location setting to your platforms. Okay? So that's what you're doing in a 4 signal. And set position. And tractions. Okay? Setting lines of walking sequence. Setting communication high positions. Now, after the lines of 24, then you get in position of infinity system to its portal and track locations. Okay, setting ring lines, outline, rotation surface, and track communications. Okay, stepping through lines of portals of communications. Okay, interactions. All through direct signals and ground lines of service in set position. Okay, and set position in travel communications. Very powerful stuff, isn't it? Bring it back home, back in equation, back in panel. Booyah. All right, so that's all it is. Basically, you're creating the actual 12 DNA is just levels of the game. But you have to understand how to get into the remote control and how to use it through instructions and players and the characters that you bring inside the game. All right? So truly understand how to use that in all lines of infinity and set position location inside and outside set position through remote control. Okay? So we'll do this again, and then you come into this set position. Okay? The remote control. Okay? In that position location setting, remote viewing the body in real time now in set positions. Okay, ground lines of service, working on platforms of communications and high lines of travel. Set position lines of 1 setting, process lines of 2, process lines of 3. Start with 3 lines of communication lines, 4 signals, transits, and divots, and set tractions. Okay, transits and divots, and set tractions. You're creating location grids. Okay, signify over here, 3 lines of signals of grounds, and signify here, and 3 lines of signals of set position. Okay. Then you get in position all levels, you change the transits of divots that comes L lines of space lines anomalies and 4 communication sending and travel. Directing ground lines over lines of 1, process lines of 2, process lines of 3, process lines of 4, process lines of setting, 8 lines of signals and travel and communications. Now directing signals, we ground lines of service over cross locations in 1 centers of pi. Processing communications, directing over lines communication. Now we signify cross lines of angle that overlines the signals in set position. Okay? Set tractions, all through direct lines of communication through settings, inside and outside tractions. Setting communication lines of provision lines, high centers, process lines of 1 indication setting, platforms cross location to its system. Setting track lines, cross line angles in set position location lines of travel and communications. Setting road graph screens, 1 position, 2 lines, 4 lines of signals, process lines, calculation setting, process lines of 3 triangulation of flux, ground lines of surface, and a window frame and set position location to its system and travel. Ooh-ah. Very complicated when you start to look at things and all communicate to a setting. All through is set tractions, indirect signals of grounds. Okay? Amazing when you start to understand what you're doing through 12 foundation ground lines of communications, all through tractions. All through direct angles. Okay? And then you come into this in center position. Okay? And then you come into this in center position. And it just gets wider and wider and wider and wider inside a tunnel, inside a tunnel, inside a tunnel. Okay? Going inside a tunnel. All right? Setting lines of travel thing communicates through its settings. Okay? So there's all different levels of layers that you guys come into when you get into your game. Okay, so we cross lines of angles and 3 lines of settings and webbing, 4 lines of signals and travel. Okay, I know you guys are going, whoa, this is way too much. So we have indicate settings and lines of transits and divots, right? So we earth track case lines of 3 centers, in position lines of equal lines, and position of 4 set position. Okay, that's how it's set up in travel. Now we go through the panels of communication lines of surface and tractions. Okay, setting signals and ground lines of setting. Process lines indicate lines, road graphs, position lines of fencing and set position. Here's the fence. See the fence? You see it? Amazing how you see the grounds, the fencing, the wires, communication lines, the wave centers, and to its tunnel of communications. The indicate ground lines sets 3 lines of signals over cross location system and travel. Directing lines, ground lines, cross lines, signals, and high position location of 4 lines of travel and set position locations. Okay, overline signals, 1 lines of ground lines of surface and track communication. Inside set position. Inside and outside. Inside and outside. And inside and outside. Right? So the more you go in, the more you understand what you're doing in the game. The levels of the game. Right? The down, the balance, and the up. Right? There's the structure of the building. Okay, ground levels, power centers, atmospheres, top of the building. All right, so now we can work within that cycle and set the cross lines of angles. 1, 2, and 3 and measure. Say cross lines down, shift lines of 2 lines and 3 lines of measure. And cross lines on 1 signal locations. Process in communication setting high travels. 4 windows of indication setting and 3 triangulation splits. Setting communication lines of grounds and 3 lines and position lines of 2-dimensional door screens in set position. Overline signals, 1-dimensional door set position. Okay? or platforms of window and travel and communications. Okay, or 45 angle communication lines of dimensional door setting. So the more you go inside, the more you understand the structure of design and set tractions. Look at that in power, direction, and time sequence. Complicated stuff, but it's a lot of fun. See? That's what you do when you get an instruction line design line. In position location setting, but you got to work in that position location of grounds up and travel. There's the building. There's the building. Okay, grounds up. Always center lines, process and communication lines. Setting lines, once you get out of 5 lines of sequence, you create another pyramid. You add platforms every single time. You go from 0 to 5, okay, 5 to 7 in set position, 7 line position of 12, and 12 into 24 set position location and travel. And then you cross the angles, okay, directing signal location and settings of flux that puts all communication lines of balance and travel communications. Now you see the fencing outside and inside the position, right? Look at that, inside and outside the position. You actually can see it from outside and inside position. There's the ceiling. Okay, so it's all about creating the grounds, the powers, and the atmospheres, all through a box frame and track communications. But it's very powerful what you're doing in set position. All through communications. All through communication of a structure of a building and setting. Okay, very powerful stuff. So whatever you do when you're building your grounds up, everything in your reality is changing. Is structure, is schematics, and is frequencies, and a 4-signal location setting all at once in set tractions. Okay, so it gets more complicated, but a lot more fun in set position location to a system. Okay, I know you guys are going, whoa, but you really, really have to understand how to use the remote control of Earth and space and Earth. Okay? So you guys will have instructions on how to use that in set position lines of travel. Getting direct lines, you start with this in provision. Okay, in set positions. They get structures of buildings here, here, and here, 3 lines of flux. Setting travels, endpoint lines of graph, and 3 lines of measures and triangulation. Process indicates settings and lines of travel. Platforms here, platforms here, platforms here, and platforms here. 1 layer, 2 layer, 3 layers, in set position of 4 set position lines of travel communications. Okay? Indicates settings and all lines of travels, indicates the system, all through tracker correlation system, all through calculation. Okay? Working inside and outside in travel. Inside and outside in travel. Okay? But you got to work in setting, position location to setting first in set position. See? Inside. See? Isn't that amazing? See? That's you right there. You know? Peeking out. You know? Looking out. So there's the things that you can do. You can plot from your communication setting here. You're here in signal, but you see yourself as you see yourself inside. You're here outside, but you're also seeing yourself from inside. So this is where it comes in the mirror image. Now, it gets more complicated because you have to understand platforms of communication setting at different angles of communications. From this angle, from this angle, from that angle, from this angle. Okay? You see that? This angle, this angle, this angle, and that angle. It's all indication settings, guys. It's just arrows and arrows of indication setting whenever you gain. Here, platform, up platform, cross platform. Okay? All through setting, face recognition. See the face, right? So I'm just showing you how powerful it is when it gets really, really interesting all through platforms of communications. Okay? And the structure, and its portal, and its wormhole inside. Actually inside and outside of the structure of the building. Through your window frame, inside and outside, in set position location with settings. Okay? But it's knowing how to structure this inside of you in set position. Okay? I know everybody's going, whoa, this is a lot. It is a lot, but I'm just trying to get you guys to identify yourselves and how you start to understand yourself So in that position, in all communication with settings, travels, directions into all communications. It's amazing how you can get anything in position of travel, okay? So you have align signals in here, line position location indicating this way. Okay, so this is line position location in mind. That's your mind, right? Right here, that's your mind. So it's in position here, right? This is your body, okay? Has to come into pi, okay? Has to come into pi. So this is already set up, and then this goes here to another platform. This is the mind, right? But you have to come into pi, okay? So the mind's here, okay? All right? And the body's catching up, okay? So it's got to go set position, right? So it's basically understanding now the mind's done everything through the remote control, okay? And now the remote control itself is controlling the body in itself, okay? In the same time measure in real time, existing and evolving and expanding at the same time, okay? So what you're doing is your body's catching up to its alignment, to its mind itself that's done everything already. So it's already created the structure of the building. It's already created everything through pi. So the body has to understand its alignment through telepathy. And the more you understand that, the more you get out of all communication, confusion, and separation, you start to understand how to link yourself and travel. Set position here, you don't have to go through pi because you're already here. You're already there. Okay? So this is the mind, right? That's the mind, right? You're already there. Set position. So the more you get closer, the more the magnets formulate and simulate with each other through structure. And that structure opens up signals. And that position location to its settings. All right, so the position location of the alpha male has now disappeared. It's not here. It's out of sync. It's going too fast in travel. Remember, it goes in its own setting. See, when you basically look at this, you can look at it and you can see it move by itself. It's absolutely moving back in its order. It's pretty powerful stuff in trashes. All right, so we have a direct line, communication setting to travel. Okay, so we'll get into position location of system. Let's get into travel communication lines, dimensional door. 3 lines of signals, right? All right. So what you're doing is your mind is set in position already. Point lines of dock. That's the mind, right? So you're here and you're always constantly doing that. But you have to catch up to scale now in a higher frequency panel. So when you identify that, you don't have to go through pi because you're already there in point center, right? So here in point center, here in point center, all together in set position. So you're working together. You're synchronizing each other through a map, through layers of communication setting, working together and set track lines and direct signals to grounds. Working your way up through the structure of your 12 foundation grounds. Setting up the platforms and the high lines of communications all together in travel communications. Setting line, position, location, measure, and scale communication to its system. Right? All through high set and position, location, measure, and scale communication to its system. All set position. All together. Right? But that's what it is. That's where it gets very confusing and where you're going through time. Where you're constantly creating a pi. So this is the mind itself, guys. Very powerful stuff. The remote control has already created the foundation in and already created the foundation out in set position. It's already done, right? But the body basically is here and it has to understand what's going on. Okay? The mind's here that's done everything. That's done everything from here, done everything from here, and done everything from here. All right? So you got a 24-line signal, set position lines, high center location setting. Communicate lines, 24 lines, 48 line position, 72 track communication lines, 144. Setting communication lines at high set position lines at high set locations. Set position of 72, 48, and position lines at high position of 24, and position line 12 in set position. So there's so many ways to do this in travel. The mind has always, always, always done everything first. The remote control is its own remote control. The mind itself is the remote control. That's basically in the game of itself. So you guys have to understand how to balance that out. So what you're doing is all you're doing is you're creating a map in set position. That's all you're doing. Because when you're creating a map, you're creating your earth. Okay? So the mind's done all this already. This is already done. Okay, so the body has to go through time in the same time measure with the mind itself through its mode control. So it has to go from this, has to go from there, has to go from here, 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 has to go from here and travel. There's the map. Okay, in your country. So what you have to understand, the mind itself is basically motivating and position locations to its own activity, system, location, of travel. Setting lines, position, location, all settings of 4 lines of flux and 3 lines of measure. Inside locations. It's already done this, right? So the body's at the bottom. Okay? The mind is up here. Okay? So if it goes here, it's already done, right? So in that position, the body has to understand what's going on with the mind and balance. And once it understands the balance, it catches up through pi in set position. And once it gets up in position, you come into all calculations on your levitation setting, into your levitation graph of communication. Levitation, you come in your UFO, inside you. See, everything is structured inside, but you understand how to get in positions all levels of walk into space on your platforms. Okay, walking into space, just walking into space on platforms, right? You're here, and then you go here, right? That's a time jump, all right? Now, what you understand, vortex is one position to the next position, okay? Time jump is basically from position lines into a portal in the other side locations in setting. Okay, so there's 3 lines of cycles there, all through set position locations, right? So I'm trying to get you guys how to get all this together into the game levels of you, inside and outside of inside you in set position. How do you travel through that? Through your alpha male and your alpha female in set position, right? So it's understanding the box of travel and 3 signals, right? But this is out. This is out of space. This is inner space, guys. You start with the inner space. Okay, so inner space is outer space, but inner space comes together. There's the teleportation vessel. See, look, there's the vessel. Okay, so when you create that, you create down ground lines, you create the crop circle in set position and setting. There's your vessel, there's your XT1000. So all you guys are creating is higher lines of teleportation vessels through your schematics, through your primers. Okay, all lines of all communications, but you've got to build up your foundations first. Grounds up and set position lines of structure, your 12 lines of communications. Once you get into that, it's much easier to see that what's going on inside your system. Okay, so in that position of its all settings, process lines of triangulation here, and set positions of triangulation here and setting, triangulation here and setting, set position. Okay. But you always have to understand the box frame is the window frame. That's the window frame, right? And it crosses over in positions. This is outer space, but you have to stand inner space first. This is the inversion that you guys have to have directions of and settings. And once you get into that position location system, comes into all calculate modify. All levels of your vessel of communication. There's your vessel. It's all levels of travel, nothing else. There's your vessel. Okay? And there's your vessel. Traveling, right? That's all it is. You can change the vessel. Okay? You can change the vessel. Okay? All you're doing is you're creating modification grounds of travel so you can understand more levels of the game of structure in set position in real time. You're starting with the remote control and how the body basically has to understand its remote view of what's going on. So that's what you're doing in set position. Okay? All through traction. All through calculations. All right. So getting to walking in space, flying in space, and levitating. And then you get into all those structured design line in a box frame. Okay. In platforms of communication lines of travel, inside and outside in set position. Okay. Inside and outside in set position. Right. Inside and outside in set position. Right. Now this is inside and outside. Right. Okay, but this is inside of you in set position. Okay, so it's amazing how you look at different angles and travel, right? All through tractions. Once you stand in that position, then you come in these settings. It's very powerful when you come into that position location of travel. Okay, basic understanding how to do this. It's just understanding what you're doing through your schematics, understanding what you're doing through your settings, all through settings. Each line, each link, each panel, each correlates to the location of travel. Has a direct line link in communication setting of its dimensional door. See? It's door, guys. See? Look, it's doors and travel. So there's so many ways of looking at this, guys. It's very powerful stuff. How to see it in a 4 different angle all at once. Okay? All through tractions. And then you see it above in set position. Right? And then you see it on the other side in set position. And then you see it on the grounds in set position. Okay? So that's what you got to do with your dimensional layers, your 12 foundations first and your 24 cycles. So you got platforms of 1, platforms of 2, platforms of 3, platforms of 4. Now when you're in 4, automatically comes with 5, it goes up. Okay? And this goes down. Okay? And this comes together. Okay? And this comes together. 2 panels and tractions. Okay? So this goes up, but this goes down. Okay? This has to go down because it's the levels of the game that you're in. Okay? So when you're going up, you're going through platforms now. You can go through this way and position location to a setting. All right? So that's one level of another game, right? Each time you go into different levels of the game. But you're always dealing with the set position of its primer that's in track location of center of operation. Split lines of anomaly and 3 lines of platforms of communications. All right? Change ground lines. Look at this in travel. Okay? And this in travel in set position. Okay? So it's very interesting when you see that. And each one has a data box, data frames, film projectors, process communication lines, all through communication setting and travel. Archives, set position location to a system, all through tractions. Okay, and then you see it on this setting, the set position. Okay, and then you see it on this setting, in set position. All right, so there's all different levels of the game. You can put 0s and 1s, but you have to send all levels of your 12 foundations first before you come into your creating, right? So set positions here, set positions here, set positions here in 3 settings. Process lines of 4 angles, set tractions. So all you're doing is you're basically line signaling everything of platforms and putting them all together. I'm turning this into a ceiling now, which is all levels. Anything with a ceiling is your webbing system. Okay? It's your webbing system and set tractions and direct signal. Okay? Now when it comes in the grounds, this is where it comes in surface interaction. Okay? Or panels of communications. Okay? So I guess I wanted you guys to understand these things. The basic understanding is how to put this all together in your modulation systems through remote control and your body at the same time. Okay? So the body just has to understand the mind, and the mind has to understand the body now because it's all lines of the same relation, right? So you got 2 mode controls in one setting now. Okay, you got one person here, but you're over here. Your body's here now, and your mind's here. But see, they're both controlling each other through Earth and space and Earth at one. It's very complicated stuff because that puts you in direct and redirect. Now, once you understand this, then you understand the platforms of this. Okay, through your remote control, through your body and remote viewing. Okay. Like I said, it's a lot of lines of position, location, Doctor Strange, but this is just the basics. It's all levels perspective. How you draw. The more you basically get in more lines of communication of the structure, and then you understand how to use the remote of the mind, because that's all it is, and then you understand what the body's trying to do. The body is basically not trying to catch up, it's trying to understand its formation, how it gets communicate to its Earth and space at the same time, and its space of its Earth at space time. That comes into all levels in your tractions, okay? How you go direct and redirect, right? That's all basically what it is in structured design. If you get at 3 lines of flux over 4, a 4-line box frame, and a triangulation center, 3 lines of communication setting all through travel. Okay? And then you get in position. Remember, it's in a 4 communication. There's the human residence. And then you get ground lines of setting. So you're constantly changing the geometrics of 4 settings into an oscillation path that puts lines in position location in your system all through travel. Get to all levels of modification grounds. Set position here, set position to flux over 3, and travel communications. All right? Directing is here, here, and here, and here, 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 and here, and here in set position. All right? And you get in settings of here and travel. Okay? So that's communication setting. There's the structure of the building. Okay? You're constantly creating the structures of the building at different angles. So the XC1000s can platitude and dock each time. Right? So once you create your 12 levels, the XC1000s, basically you have a platform which you have in set position. Right? So what that means in set position location to its setting, you start expanding your system inside you of platforms of communications. You start creating higher lines of structures of buildings that get bigger. Okay, platforms that get bigger in set position. Okay, look at that inside and outside, through its window frame. Okay, creating layers and layers of communication. Higher line settings, starting with that in a 45 communication setting to another structure of the building. Okay, to another structure of the building. Okay, dimensional layers into it's all levels of dimensional door. Okay, so it gets really crazy when you really have a lot of fun. But all you have to understand is how to get your 12 lines of layers, okay, and understand how to use the remote control of the mind of yourself, because it is its own information that governs its own system. And basically you work together, right? So what you're trying to do is you're trying to create an anomaly together in positions at all levels so you guys can get in the same link set together in position, right? When you're going through that. So the mind is already in 3 seconds, already set in tractions, right? You see that 3 seconds, right? That's the mind, it's already done that. But you're here in position of 1 second in travel. So this is the body, and the mind itself is all levels of just question. It's just your quantum self. That's all it is. Your mind is the question, right? The unification in settings is the quantum line coordinate centers that puts everything in location setting in travel. Knowing exactly how to question everything in that position, location, and measure, and scale, and balance. Knowing exactly how to communicate your body, and know exactly how to go through pi. Going through pi, put you in structured design lines, there is the XC1000 in travel. That's all it is. Nothing else. You're creating higher lines of teleportation vessels. So you can travel through to different layers. Each layer that you go through in set position. Okay? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So when you get into 5, now you go up. Okay? You go up the platforms. Okay? You work with the downshift lines of an anomaly, the structure of the building, right? Now you can split that in 3 angles, 4 angles, or 6 angles in setting. All right? Then you come into infinity, which is its window frame in set position. Starting crown lines, core centers of its platforms of communications, coming in position line of its panels of its dimensional doors, and set track location lines a high position of its ceiling. Okay? Process this angles in 2 tractions. Process lines of 3, 4, and 5 set position. Okay? Now in that lines, once you have that provision lines of cycles and you finish your 12 lines, the XC1000s come in. Okay? And they dock their system, 1, 2, and 3 in set position. Okay? So that comes in this position, and that comes in this position locations, and it comes in this in-track location. Okay? So it's very powerful of what you're doing in set position on the game levels that you're in, right? So you're creating platforms, okay, at a higher length, a measure and scale of communication. Okay? All through settings. Okay? So you can go in the opposite directions. Very powerful when you start to recognize what you're doing in platform communications. Okay? What you're doing, you can go through grounds up and set position. Okay? It's just knowing how to communicate with everything in setting on the position of its setting locations. All set tractions. Look at that. Okay? And this and travel. Okay? So your Skynet is on 4 different angles and set tractions, all through your structure at your 12 measure scale. All through your pyramid. See your pyramid's there. See your pyramid? Set position here. Set position here. And your layers of communications. Okay? Setting here, setting here, setting here, setting here. And track communications. So you're changing the structure automatically in set position of its windows and its doors and its frames of communications. Very powerful stuff, guys. Absolutely amazing. Then you come into sonar and echo. Okay, that sets lines of communication, lines of flux over screen adaptation. Okay? So there's always ways to expand. And there's always ways to get in position of expanding, knowing exactly how to set the division locations of what you want to do through attractions. This helps you and guides you in all ways and forms. Okay, and all through communications. All right? But that's all it is. That's what you do with your letters, numbers, shapes, and symbols. Understand how to use a triangulation flux through box position locations, so through its settings, starting with the basic rounds of communications, all through different levels of your game, different levels of the game. Okay, all in set position. Different. That's another game, right? So we got 4 angles, 4 different game levels in triangulation box. 4 different. Triangulation, this is a game, this is a game, this is a game, and this is a game. So you have to work around that through pi, right? So your mind has already set this up. It's already done. The body is in the center operation, trying to understand how to get here, how did it get here, how did it get here, how did it get here, and how did it get out of here? It's that position, right? You understand the clockings now. So in that position lines of height centers, earth lines of space, space lines of earth, the 2 mode controls, right? Now is controlling the flux of the body, going exactly where it needs to go in position of balance, existing all at once, right? Because the mind itself is the imagination of itself, which is all levels in set position of just question. The mind itself is the question, which is your quantum. It's your quantum self. Getting quantum lines into infinity 8. Setting bounce lines to ground lines of setting. Process lines indicate system lines of travel. Direct lines communicates setting. Overline sequence lines communication system, all through travel communications. Setting lines of tractioners and location system, all through all line rotation of yin and yang. Hooah. Okay. Flux over screen, over lines. Setting position of past, present, and future, and set lines of communication setting and center operation of you, just existing. Setting planets, core lines calculation in your solar system. So I'm trying to get you guys to understand. Look at that, disappeared. Too fast. Got to set position lines of center operation setting to travel. Right? It's there. It's not going to disappear. Inside track communications. Bring it back home, back in single, back in balance, back in position. Whoa. All right, so the mind is all levels of the question itself, which is the mode control that controls the earth and space and the space and earth inside your game. Okay? Very powerful stuff, guys. All right? But I just wanted to show you in all different levels how it's very powerful to recognize all lines, how you can come into your position locations and create all this lines of signals into your position lines of settings, all inside and outside of you. Okay? That's it. I know it's a lot to take in, eh? I'll see you guys in 5.